Hi, my name is Eric.
So I'm Dylan.
I'm Brendan Rosen.
I'm Janelle, and I'm a finance major in the School of Management.
At the School of Communications, and I am minoring in business administration.
Finance and entrepreneurship.
Psychology, linguistics, Japanese, and women's gender and sexuality studies.
The green business model.
To me, a green business model.
Green business model.
The business model that obviously follows what the name suggests. It kind of suggests the business adheres to environmentally friendly or somewhat green policies.
Business which minimizes its global footprint through either its operations, its sales, or its product.
And it's a big controversy whether or not some companies uses it more for profits or whether or not it's more used to actually help out the environment.
When you're thinking about the green business model, what you really have to consider is what is motivating these companies to really try to go green. Is it because they're thinking in the long term for sustainability and making sure that they can help out society, or is it because it's just profitable? And what we find in a lot of cases is that companies will rely on their green business model to rope in consumers. So the green business model seems to have had its origins in, first of all, in basic green product.
So like right now, a lot of people are like into organic and healthier options. So obviously a lot of companies are changing to meet those needs. And meanwhile, they're helping the environment. They're also helping their margins and increase profits.
Boston University and Boston in general have a pretty green initiative. BU especially, they try to do many different green initiatives like we can see in the GSU. And a lot of the companies around us.
As societies move towards a more environmentally conscious mindset, companies have began with small initiatives, products, individual products that consumers responded very, very positively to.
The first thing that comes to me when I think of Whole Foods is their reusable bags that everyone carries around.
One market feature of the green business model, though, that's a little bit different than just a company pandering to one particular subset of a market would be the fact that it's a little bit more self-sustaining.
I've actually never really been to Whole Foods. I think I went once.
When you look at a green business, a lot of the time you notice that they don't really have these intensive marketing campaigns that a lot of other corporations do, just because their customer base will do that for them, whether it be through talking about what they bought recently that's so sustainable, so green, or ways that they can themselves work these green things into their lives in ever more creative ways.
I think the consumer base is very, I don't want to say cultish because I feel like that's not the correct word to use, but it's more like of a lifestyle. When I think of Whole Foods, I think of people who do yoga and then after go pick up their groceries at Whole Foods.
You have a whole culture that springs up around things like, I don't know, like homemade bath products. And these things really feed into the green business because the green business in turn can offer up the raw materials for which this culture can be created.
Chipotle, they try to use antibiotic and hormone-free beef and chicken, and they try to label all GMOs when possible. And they'll let you know when they're not using naturally raised chicken or beef. And that actually relates more to a survey done by the Huffington Post that 90% of Americans want to see or have some type of labeling of GMOs. GMO labeling is not required by the FDA or the government yet, but Chipotle is one of the first companies to just do that on their own outright. It results in a profit as well. And Chipotle's fourth quarter profits increased by 30% with that labeling announcement. And in 2013, sales were up 9.3% from 2012. And the average Chipotle location brought in an extra $622 per day. So I think there is a connection between GMO labeling and using this, I guess, healthier, greener initiative to not only help the environment, but also improve your business.
Kind of style.
Demographics.
Young 20s usually. The 20s, I guess yuppies.
Okay, yeah.
Yuppies, I see yuppies kind of. So Whole Foods is an organic grocer. Actually, it was the first certified organic grocer. Their core mission is devoted to promoting organically grown food, promoting healthy eating, and sustainability of our entire ecosystem. Their CEO, John Mackey, claims that they're creating value for their consumers, for their investors, for their employees, and for the community.
Whole Foods, I've always been a little bit curious about how much their relatively expensive prices are justified by their greenness.
At the same time, they are also charging premiums for their products because they are organic products, so people are more willing to pay higher prices for something that's more healthy for them.
How much of it's going to the workers, how much of it's going to the producers.
So because of this, they are a leader in the market with higher gross profits because of the nature of their business, which is a green business. They are a green business through several ways, but two of their main ones are through their operations and their products.
There's been cases where you can see that Whole Foods sometimes falls a little short of their mission, and it sometimes makes you question the motivations of Whole Foods as a business.
So Whole Foods sits on the board of the National Organic Standards, and back in about 2012, they decided to use their vote to allow farmers to use ammonium nonate in their farming practices. This is obviously something that goes very against what they stand for.
But at the same time, what you'll notice is that a lot of healthier foods are being introduced into the market in a way that they wouldn't have been otherwise. And that sort of percolates downwards, and you'll find more and more people trying these foods.
I personally haven't seen too much Chipotle advertising the fact that they use these naturally raised animals, meat, stuff like that.
I think what's interesting about Chipotle's advertising is that you don't often see too much of Chipotle priding itself on its green policies through traditional media, but on networks, on social media networks like YouTube, where that young demographic really is active on. You'll see them being incredibly active on these social media websites, which really comes to illustrate the how recent this movement has been and how Chipotle is really catering to that kind of audience.
Even if you don't think about Boston as being the green city like San Francisco or Portland or Seattle, you know, Boston really is a very fertile ground for these green businesses because it's so full of young people. And young people as a whole are more conscious about the way the world works and the way that sustainability really is key moving forward. Even if it's not as conspicuous, I think Boston does represent a major force when you're thinking about green business.
Do the companies in Boston and nationwide and worldwide actually follow up on that? That's up to interpretation.
Whether or not these foods are being promoted as part of a marketing scheme or not, you could argue that people are eating healthier because of businesses like this. And I suppose as this culture becomes more the norm, as our generation and these more sustainably minded people really start becoming the primary market, these companies which have woven themselves successfully into I suppose this consumer consciousness are going to see increased profits. That's just the way it is.